had that kind of personality, very magnetic, very enforcing. He'd play these very challenging and rough games. I mean, he was tough.
I like rugged sports as a man, which is boxing. I'm a napalm bomb, guaranteed to blow your mind. I like motorcycle riding. I do a little water skiing, karate. I just I exercise every day, so I just try to stay in shape all the time.
He really liked to tumble, knock people down skating, get knocked down, play football.
I would say right now, really, all kidding aside, that the thing I keep up with most is professional football. I have a great ambition to play football, and I've got a touch league, a touch football league back home.
There was no fooling around. The guys really challenged each other. And of course, he won every one of them. He loved to win.
We were all lucky, actually, to hang out with Elvis. His personality was just wonderful. I mean, it was so huge. Endless, actually. He loved doing lots of things.
Our life was very adventurous, and there was always things to do.
Elvis loved animals.
There was a lot of animals there, you know. He loved to have them around.
Well, we got a couple of little mules.
He had all breeds of dogs.
He had like the portable buildings in the backyard, and they had air conditioning and heat in them for the dogs. That was their dog houses.
My father actually got this dog, Edmund, but he had a lot of nerve, that dog. My dad would be sitting there, about to eat his food, and the dog would tear off, jump on his bed, grab the bacon, and he would do this all the time to him.
He also had chickens and cows at some time in the earlier days because Uncle Vernon liked that and his mother liked that.
And there was Scatter the chimpanzee, which had quite a reputation.
Elvis let him move around in the house, and he'd walk up to the girls and pull their dresses up and look under them, and that was a habit he got into, I don't know how.
We had horses.
I would go horseback riding and stuff like that.
He had a great time. He rode as soon as he got up in the morning or in the afternoon, had his breakfast, he was out riding. And he put on a show for all the fans. He'd take his horse, run down to the end of the field, and then race the horses back up again.
I mean, we had become cowboys, kind of.
I believe the first horse that Elvis bought was for Priscilla at Christmas.
He surprised me with this beautiful black quarter horse named Domino. That was definitely the start of the horse craze.
Each time he went out, he'd buy a horse for a different person.
I think he bought about, 10 other horses. One for every guy and one for the wives also. It didn't matter whether you liked him or not. You were getting a horse. And looking back, it was great, because you would probably experience things that you never would have experienced before.
My father decided to give me a pony. She was very small, so he put me on her outside, and then he takes her and through the back door and in the house. He was worried that Dodger, the grandmother, was going to hear this and was going to freak out. And all of a sudden, the horse decides to, relieve himself, and not in a pretty way, on the carpet.
He wanted a special one. He wanted a golden palomino. We would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go to certain farms and ranches. We'd knock on their doors and say, do you have a golden palomino for sale? And they'd look and they'd say it's Elvis Presley. They couldn't believe it.
They loved to ride horses, and there were so many of them that they had to extend the barn, and they, redid it and made it look really beautiful. He was really into that for a long time.
He turned the barn into an actual working barn. I mean, I've never seen him so happy. He was painting names on the stalls, on the gear, on all the, he had a tack room. He put everything in the tack room. He had all the saddles named and color coordinated. I mean, that's probably the most organized he ever was.
Everyone had horses and golf carts. One person would get on, and then everyone would get on, and then it would be like, like a convoy of golf carts. It was always crazy.
So we're trying to keep up with him, and it's kind of hard to do because he could be pretty wild.
I also led the convoy when I got old enough to hit the pedal.
So then Lisa started doing the same thing with her little friends. She had her golf cart and would drive all over Graceland at a very young age, like, 5 or 6 years old.
I had about 5 friends up there, and then some cousins.
She had her own little entourage of people.
We can ride and do, and we were real lucky that nobody probably got hurt.
So we'd all sort of congregate when I'd come to town, and everyone would get a golf cart,
We would actually play bumper cars with them.
which was a nightmare.
She was the ruler, drove all over the place and kind of bossed everybody around.
I fired people, yeah. Apparently I did. I could decapitate a golf cart. I could take the hood off by running under a tree. I could go through the fence and it would get fixed within 3 days.
Lisa was already tearing up everything, just like he was.
If it wasn't me, running the golf cart through a tree or through the forest or through a fence, it was my father.
And there's this hill right in front of Graceland itself, and he would take us on joy rides on that thing. He had my parents on that at one time and scared the heck out of my mother.
And I begged him to stop, 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 stop. The more I said stop, the more he kept on going. And he was getting a kick out of it, but I wasn't at that time.
He loved to scare people. He loved to give them a thrill and really create an effect in that way.
And just scared everybody to death because we thought he was going to get killed on it and everything would be over.
And now when I go to Graceland, I take my kids, I try to reenact it for them. And they still act crazy, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's almost like there's this strange thing that happens to people when they get up there and they sort of, just sort of demolition the golf carts. And people that had never been there have the urge to do it.
You can't go out like an ordinary person, because people see him and, of course, they recognize him.
Naturally, you can't go places like other people. You can't go to ball games. You can't go to the local theater and things like that. We have a fairgrounds there, and I rent the fairgrounds after it closes up.
He would rent out Libertyland, and we'd stay there all night riding roller coasters over and over and over and over all night long.
When we went to the fairgrounds, they had bumper cars and they had the Ferris wheel and different things like that I always liked to ride.
They just amuse me because there's so much to do and take your mind off everything. I would try to win prizes by playing their crooked games.
I think we stayed on the Pippin most.
The roller coaster would go up to the highest point, and then he would get out of it and make everybody panic, thinking that he fell off. He would be sitting somewhere on the roller coaster.
He would jump off before we'd come back down. He truly was a rebel-type guy back then.